Hello and welcome to the Business Talk podcast. I am your host Deepak. I am delighted to welcome Dr. Pauldy Otermans, an esteemed neuroscientist, psychologist, and higher education leader as our distinguished guest on today's podcast episode. Dr. Pauldy Otermans is the co-founder of Otermans Institute, a London-based international organization dedicated to research and the development of affordable educational tools for a global audience through the use of artificial intelligence. Dr. Pauldy was named one of the UK's most influential women in 2022 by Startup magazine, a recipient of multiple awards for leadership in technology and her impact in the tech industry. She holds a Ph.D. in neuroscience and psychology. Dr. Otermans is the forefront of developing AI-driven solutions for education, with her innovations in pedagogy and curriculum adopted across 13 countries, UK universities, and government initiatives. In this episode, Dr. Pauldy Otermans will share insights from her research, AI in education and employability, personalizing learning, and bridging the skill gaps for the future work. It is with great pleasure that we now welcome Dr. Pauldy Otermans to the podcast. Dr. Pauldy, it's a real pleasure to have you join us. Thank you for being here.
You're very welcome, and thank you for that lovely introduction.
Yeah. Dr. Oterman, how is AI transforming traditional education models by personalizing learning experiences?
That's a great question to kick off with, and a very important one, a very broad one as well. If I think about the work we do at Otermans Institute and our products, OII, it's like having a personal mentor or coach or tutor for yourself. And if you're thinking about when you were in education, and maybe you are, some of our listeners may be in education, whatever that may be, you always want a helping hand, right? You want someone to guide you through the content. Because if I would give you just books and YouTube, we wouldn't have a skills gap in the world, right? There was no issue then, because that would be possible to give people access to that. But we see that the global skills and literacy gap still exist. So just giving books away and giving YouTube access or other videos is not solving our problem. What we have found is that you really need a guiding hand, a teacher, a tutor, a personal mentor, a coach, all for yourself. Because then you can ask your personalized questions, and the system, in this case, an AI system, will give you personalized feedback. We'll see how you learn, adapts their responses to the way you like to learn. Some people are more visually attuned. Some people like to read text. Some people are voice first. Some people are not. Everyone is different. And AI makes all this possible to really, truly personalize a learning experience to the individual needs that you have. And because of AI, we can now give this, personalized tutor, or as we call it, a teacher in your pocket, to everyone. So it becomes truly accessible, and it's no longer, a game for the rich people or the privileged people. And this AI, system, this AI teacher, will really follow you throughout your learning journey. It knows every interactions you're having with it. It can quickly get to know you more than any, sort of human coach or human tutor who would only interact with you, a few hours a month? Because you have to book that tutor at a, set date, set time, like how we are now on this session. We have to schedule this at a day and time that was convenient for both of us. And, when you're booking it, it costs also quite a lot of money. When you're looking at an AI system, you have access 24/7. And that's what we see. We serve a lot the underserved. So in the case where we operate, not having a teacher or a guide is really an issue for a lot of these people. Also think about people that are first-time learners, the first-time generation who maybe goes to university or even school, right? Again, AI can really give that hyper-personalized support to anyone, anywhere, anytime.
Doctor, can you share specific examples of AI-powered platforms that have successfully tailored education to individual student needs?
Sure. Yes. So I'll explain a little bit more about what we do, and I'll also touch upon some other, company examples of tools that people may have already encountered or may have already played with. So the first one is our own one. So OIAI, so Otermans Institute Artificial Intelligence. And what this is truly a teacher in your pocket. So if we're looking, for instance, at, could be educational institutions like universities, or we also work with special needs institutions like secondary schools. You can even think about working with governments and upskilling entire nations. or corporates to look at their employees, upskilling, onboarding, reskilling, all of the areas where there is some learning involved, our system can tackle. Why? Because it is a customized system. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? So it tailors to the needs of the particular client, in our case, that we work with. So for example, in our case, if we're looking at an institution as an example, they would get access to a dashboard because our system consists of two parts. The first part is the dashboard, where they can upload their own content. Many people have their own content, right? If you're a teacher or if you're a trainer or you are, an employer, you have maybe your own policies, your induction handbook. Everybody has certain documents that they want their learners to learn. Now, if you would make a lesson yourself, what tends to happen is people use PowerPoint or Canva or another sort of visual element software to create the content, and that takes quite a lot of time. If you are making content for a session for an hour, it can easily take you a few hours to make the content for that 1 hour session. And that is just the content. Then you want activities. You want to see whether people understood what you had. So what happens in our case, you as the educator or the employer or the government, you can upload your document, whether it's a PDF of hundreds of pages, whether it's a few slides, whatever you may have, you can upload that to the platform. What happens then, the AI system takes in that content, digests it, and creates a lesson out of it tailored to your needs. You may say, I want a lesson of 1 hour. You may want 10 subsections. You may want activities after each subsection where the AI will test the user on their multiple choice or open-ended questions. It even can generate hints, but you are in full control. So you can do all of that. The AI does what you want to do in a few minutes, and you can see all the stuff. So you can see all the content, the lesson that the AI has created, and you can edit if you wish to do so. You are in control. The human is always in the loop. Then you push that out then to your learners. And by the way, this pushing out can also include visuals, videos, a truly lesson. Like if I was teaching you, one-to-one on Zoom, I probably come with infographics and charts and I pose questions to you. That's really what our AI does. So then the learner, a student, an employee, it doesn't really matter. The learner who receives that content then logs into the system, and there the content is delivered through AI teachers in the form of avatars. Again, these can be fully customizable depending on, who are your learners? Are you in, let's say, Africa where we operate, or are you in the UK? The avatar will look different because the needs of the people are different, right? You're learning from someone who is as close to you as possible because you have a more click with someone like that. And the AI will teach you the content. You can stop it. You can pause. You can ask it to repeat. You can clarify doubts, more questions, delve deeper. Anything you could do if you would have a human teacher with you, holding you by the hand at all times. And of course, it then also quizzes you, and all that data then goes back to the organization to see how well you are performing and if there are any areas you may particularly need help with. So that's one system or one example of an AI-powered platform that has successfully tailored education to individual needs. Another one that I think everyone will know, ChatGPT. Many people use it. I think, no podcast nowadays goes, we'll always use ChatGPT. But that's actually not a teacher, right? So you can ask ChatGPT questions and it can, give you a direct answer. So you also have that immediate answer that you may need as a learner. But it's not a teacher. It's not guide you through it. You not have that one-to-one support that you get, for instance, with our system. Similarly, Perplexity is another, AI tool that lots of people use. But again, it is not a teacher. And actually, it uses OpenAI, right? It's built on top of that. Another one, for instance, is Canmigo, another AI tool that many people have used, particularly those in the US. But it's, I would say it's underperformed. Why do I use that word? It's not that good. It has a few hundred users, despite millions of people are using Khan Academy. So Canmigo, the AI, is less used than actually, Khan Academy itself. So something is going on there. So yeah, there's just a few of the tools that are out there, some of the ones that people have used, but there are probably others as well.
Dr. Pauldy, based on your experience and research, What are the most critical skills gap in today's workforce, and how can AI help bridge them?
Good question. I believe in the three C's. So those are firstly communication. Whether or not there is AI, communication has always been, a critical skill set. Look at any job description, ask any person who is in the, recruitment or hiring business, or who is a a team manager and has people working with them. Communication is the number one skill, I think, globally that has been identified as a skill that is needed to have. And that usually meant, you communicated with a fellow colleague or a customer or another stakeholder or a potential new client. You had to communicate both verbally, but you also had to be, excellent in your written communication skills. And now we have to extrapolate that and take it one step further. AI, you need to be able to communicate with the AI. And that sounds, some people make it sound funny, but you need to be able to express yourself better. The more you're able to communicate with the AI, of course, the better answers you get. So one can call it prompt engineering, but it is more than that. You're having that dialogue with the AI, and the better you can have the dialogue, the better the outputs is that you're getting, or the more it is tailored to the questions that you're trying to solve or the problems that you're trying to address. So that's the first C. The second C is critical thinking. Probably more important than ever. Again, always been a skill that's been thought really useful. You need to critique things, you need to judge, not take things for granted. And again, that's where AI also comes in place. When you're using AI, whether or not you're using it for images, videos, learning, summarizing, paraphrasing, finding research articles, whatever it may be, you are the human in the loop. Similar to our system, the educators can always change and edit if they wish to do so. If they want to make it even further personalized or more tailored to their learners even. Again, you need to critique the output that an AI give you. An AI can create, I don't know, hundreds of different, let's say the title for this podcast, it can create hundreds of titles in a few seconds. But in the end, you have to critique and decide which one you want. The human in the end, presses sort of the go button, the red button. Yes, this is the one we want to use. So critical thinking is another key element because AI will be, or if not already is doing a lot of sort of manual or tasks that actually can be automated. So where we no longer need the human, but the human stays in the loop where it comes to these critical points. We are the decision makers. We're just using AI to help us give a lot of data so we can make better decisions. So critical thinking is key. And the third one is the C for creativity. And that may surprise you, but creativity, the human will in the end come out with the idea. So what do I mean by that? So to give you one example, if you're using AI, and a lot of tasks, as I mentioned before, can now potentially be done faster when you work with an AI in parallel. And that means you can free up some time. And I think time is something none of us have enough of. We always say we're running out of time. And a lot of us, when you're looking at all the things we need to do, whether or not we're a good time manager, we still often do a lot of things that are just sort of mundane things that just need to be done. Right? And in the end of a week, you think, what did I do this week? I think, I did this or that, but you may have wished to do many other things. And you may not have the time to think really about something, either whether it's reflecting or, creative thinking, to come up with new ideas, to think outside the box. Often the time that we have set aside to do that becomes smaller and smaller and smaller because all these other things are, thrown at our plate, which seem to be more urgent, at the time. So when we're using AI and when we're working with AI in parallel, we can free up quite a lot of time that we can use to really get back to what it is that we're often good at, creative, coming up with ideas, coming up with new, innovative solutions. And again, we can also bounce back, of course, with an AI just to test our ideas and to find out more information. So in my opinion, these are the three key skills in today's and the future workforce: communication, critical thinking, and creativity, the three C's, as I like to call them.
Very insightful. Dr. Pauldy, what role does AI play in aligning curriculum with evolving industry requirements and job market trends?
Good question. Look, well, AI is what we're using. And I always say AI is here and AI is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, right? So I believe it's crucial, important, extremely, extremely beneficial that we start teaching, not the current generation, but especially the younger ones, on how to use AI and make it part almost of their, sort of daily daily journey. It is like, when I went to school, we had to use Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel and Microsoft PowerPoint. We were taught these things, right? And if you would go to a job and you didn't know how to use Microsoft Excel, well, you probably were out before, you probably didn't even get a job interview, right? There were things that we were taught as it was very crucial to know. And at this moment in time is if you're looking at industries, and it doesn't really matter what industry you're looking at, whether you're looking at the medical field, like education, anything really, business, finance, accounting, sales, anything. AI will or is already a part of that. And for some industries, it's more visible than others. And some companies, of course, have taken further steps to embrace AI and really make it part of their business and almost seeing as business as usual. Not everyone has, but I think it's just a matter of time before everyone will do and see all the advantages it can bring. So we need to, if we ignore AI, we're going to be stuck. We're going to be falling behind. Whether that is as a country, as an institution, as a company, we really need to embrace AI. And I think that's where it's not only, about the curriculum and thinking what that would look like in an education setting, but very much thinking how that education system aligns, because it should align with the world we live and we work in. Because if there is no alignment between those two, we're not setting or creating the right environment, or we're almost setting up the next generation to fail. And I believe, if AI is that system, which I think it is, then, we should work with it. We should learn about it, really intrinsically and embed it in our education system today. For instance, if you look at employability, which is another, sort of core angle, UK University since almost a few years now, it could have been 5, it could maybe be 10, but have been really starting to look at employability and seeing, okay, we have our modules, we have our curricula, we have our programs or degrees, students are coming out with a BSc or an MSc or an MA or a BA, whatever it may be that they have signed up for. But how does that then match with what the industry needs? So universities have started, at least in the UK, but this is quite a global thing, to embed employability directly in curriculum, and thus making students understand teamwork is important. Teaching students about teamwork, about communication, about leadership, about being resilient. And those are all skills that we know for more than a decade, probably even much, much longer, that these are important. There are plethora of reports out there that show the top 10 employability skills, and they change a little bit here and there, but education only picked it up almost relatively recently and made it quite a core focus of curriculum. And we need to do this with AI now. We shouldn't wait 5-10 years and see how AI is fully embedded in workflows to then think, oh, we should actually now start teaching the next generations about the use of AI. We need to put it in their curriculum from now. And I saw something, I think it was this week, could have been last week, China announced that now all primary and secondary school students learn about AI from September 2025. I think that's amazing. I think that's where everyone should go.
How can AI-powered career guidance tools support students in making informed decisions about their career paths?
I think there can be a varieties of ways AI can do that. So let me tell you about probably 2 or 3 different ones, and I'll also explain one study that we did on this. First one is interview practice. So one of the things we do is we also offer OII interview practice. What does that mean? Now, you're going to apply for a job and you want to prepare for an interview, right? But if you're a student, your university services, may only have certain time slots available. If you're already, if you're not at university anymore, you may not know who to go to help you practice. But it's really important you practice, right? We all know that we get a lot of feedback and we can learn from that. But you want to practice when you have the time, when you want to do that. So what you can do is you can give our AI the job description. You can tell also a little bit about yourself and your CV if you want to, and then the AI will do an interview practice with you. So our OI AI will do that. You can talk to the avatar. Many of them are female, as many teachers in the world are female, and she will go through that. She will really mimic an actual interview setting, and then gives you feedback either after each question or after the end on how you can further improve. What sort of language you may want to use, what sort of answers you may want to tweak, whether you've used certain techniques like the STAR technique, situation, task, action, result in your answers, whether it was clear, if there is any doubts that the panel may still have based on your answers. So that's one area where AI-powered career tools can really help students making decisions. Also to see, is this actually, I'm going for this interview, but is this actually really me? Do I really want to do this? Which links to the second point, where an AI can also be, a sounding board, a coach. So going back to, a different role educators sometimes play in a student's journey is being a coach, being a sounding board. So again, I'm not sure what to do. AI might say, all right, how can I help? What is it that you like? I like ABC. Excellent. Have you thought about a career in this area? What does that mean? I may have never heard of this job, of this, of this industry, because job titles also change, every day. New job titles come up really regularly, especially now with AI and technology and the word digital. A lot of these words are embedded within job titles, but when you see the job title, you actually have no clue what it means. So again, an AI can also help you understand much, much better what all these different jobs may mean and what maybe you can do to get there if you're not there yet. So that's where an AI can also help you very early on. Not waiting till it's too late, till, you almost finish your degree, or, it's time to look for a new job because your contract finishes, or because you've made redundant. No, you can use the AI again. The AI will get to know you if you're using it a lot, more and more and more. So they will also be able at some point, when you have interacted with it enough, know what you like. So it can suggest areas that you may want to look for, can suggest resources for you to have a look at. So that's sort of another way of how AI can be used, where it's much more free flow as such. And the final one is a training that we actually do with OII. It's an employability skills training. We deliver that in different formats. It could be a 9-lesson program, 12-lesson program, 15. There is different sort of packages that we offer both for corporates as well as for education institutions, where again the student goes through different employability skills. So let's say goal setting, teamwork, leadership, resilience, self-awareness, entrepreneurship, communication skills. Of course, that's always part of it. Presentation skills, being a professional, email etiquette, social media, all of these different things that are important, depending a little bit on, the industry and what sort of employability skills you're looking at. But in this way, the student can learn in a safe space. So they can learn with AI, they can go over and over the content and practice, because employability skills are not something that you read once and then, yes, I know, and I can recall and give that information back to you. Like if you were learning about, the structure of a bridge or the structure of your brain, the cells in your body, those are all facts you learn. And then once you have gone over that content, a few more times, you will know now the answers. Same as, 2 + 2 is 4, right? We learn certain things and then we know them, sort of forever. With employability skills, it's not like that. You need to practice in order to really learn them and master them. And again, that's where an AI, you're allowed to make mistakes. And often when you're in a real environment with other people, how many people really raise their hand and, give an answer to a question? Not many, because you're afraid that you say something stupid, you come across as, not knowing what you're talking about or not confident. And that's something we have seen. So when we have ran this program with different institutions, at least in 13 different countries, we've seen that not only the completion rates are relatively high. Last year we crossed in September 64% completion rate so that means the entire course, so all the 9 or 12 or 15 topics, where on average the completion rate for online learning is 7 to 14%. So we already had like a 5-fold or 6-fold compared to that. But also when we talked to some of the students afterwards, and some of them were anonymous surveys, some were really, chats. One of the things we also found is that they said, well, I can just ask all my questions to the AI. I can really learn. I don't feel shy. I feel much more confident, asking the AI questions and practicing because I don't do this in class. Because again, they don't see it as a safe space. So I think those are 3 areas where AI can really help students not only thinking about where it is they might want to go in their career, but also help them with mock interviews and also give them a plethora of employability skills training support.
Dr. Otermans, how do employers pursue AI-driven skill assessment and training programs?
There are 2 ways. Some really embrace it, and are completely, they have jumped on this train and they really want to join us, for instance, in this journey of using AI to really upskill and reskill employees and learners. And others are very afraid of using AI, feeling that it's going to take over, makes job redundant. And there's probably a truth in both, to be honest. However, when it's about the reasons why what I've seen so far, and also some of the interviews I've been conducting with companies in terms of the research we have been doing as well, is that some people perceive AI, and it's not just employer, it's also education institutions actually. They look quite against it because they're afraid of their data and their privacy. And where does this all go? Is this safe, to talk to an AI, to give it my policy? But one of the things we do is we can host the data on their servers, so completely free. I will always say to anyone, don't put your personal stuff or your slides or your policy in ChatGPT because then it belongs to OpenAI or to Perplexity or any of the other tools who are run on these big frontier models. Yes, if you give them your data, they have your data, and of course that's not safe. So that's where a lot of anxiety it comes from companies, but also it comes from not yet being fully aware of what AI actually can do, and a bit of this uncertainty in our own knowledge and professional development is that's lacking. Now AI is running and moving so quickly and changes so often that is also difficult for people in management related positions who are the ones who are making the decision whether or not they're going to take AI in a company. The question is, are they the right people? I mean, don't get me wrong, they may be excellent at their job, but how much do they know about AI? And often when we fear something because we don't know really much about it, we say, no, we're not going to use this. But when we're embracing it, when we're actually getting to know more about it, we see the positives and the benefits of it. How much time we can save, how much more data we can get, how we can use that data for really data-driven decision making, how much more we can upscale our own staff because now they can learn anytime, anywhere, at their own pace, ask the questions. There's a lot of benefits, but a lot of people also need to be made aware of all of this. And that's, I think, the next few years will be very crucial in AI literacy for the world to ensure that everyone has a basic AI literacy at least, so that they can also then, make decisions or better decisions, hopefully, at least more informed moving forward.
How can we ensure that AI-based educational tools are accessible and equitable for all learners?
Yeah, that's a question that's close to my heart. As what we do with OII, we really aim to, upskill generations of learners where we often very much focus on the underserved populations. And what we see there is that connectivity is really the number one issue that many of these people face, right? It's more than the cost of having an AI tool, or having a device. It's, excuse me, it's internet. Internet is a real problem. Now, many people or many places in the world have internet, and I put this in quotes because they say there is internet, but there is not enough bandwidth to really make it useful. Just for anyone listening, when you're in the UK and you would take a train from, let's say, London to Manchester, yes, it says there is internet and there is Wi-Fi and you can connect to it and it's free, it's lovely, but you can hardly do anything with it. Once you're connected, you can't even open your email. It's stuck. It takes 10 minutes to load. So yes, I have internet, but I can't really do anything then with it. And that's in a lot of places the case. Internet is there, but the bandwidth to be useful is not there. On top of that, in certain countries, we really have high data cost. So if I want to buy my package of, I know, a gigabyte a month, if it costs me way too much, I won't do it. Right? Or I take the lower package. And of course, this hinders wide adaptation and frequent use of AI tools as well, particularly in those countries. And what you then see happening is that the bridge only becomes bigger, right? The divide grows between those that are able to use it because can afford it, because they are able to, pay those higher data costs or get to better access to better internet. And what we do is we can now run most of our AI services on edge. So something called Edge AI. And what that means is that our systems can now run on your device. So, if I have my mobile phone, it can now run on this. So no longer needs to be connected to the internet for me to talk to the AI. So I downloaded once. Yes, I need data, of course, to download the service. You can't just exit it without it. But once it's on my device, I can talk to the AI model without being connected to the internet, without having to go up and down to the cloud, as I tend to call it. So that is, of course, amazing, right, for underserved populations who have not so much access to internet. So, or in remote areas too, where they may be able to touch the internet, once every so often. So for us, that means that we're now serving learners in the remotest countries, for instance, like Sao Tome and Principe in Africa. It's one of Africa's smallest economies. Some people may have heard of it, some people not. But we find that running our systems on edge is a real significant way of giving people access to AI in an equitable manner. And by the way, there is another positive effect of this. When we are running our AIs on your device, it also ensures that your private data no longer needs to leave the device. So it's a win-win also for the users.
What are the biggest challenges institutions face when integrating AI into their education systems?
Yeah, I think this touches upon something I mentioned before, is that the people who are the decision makers may not completely understand AI. So when it comes to making decisions about AI, we have to be very forward thinking. Often when you're a decision maker, you rely on your past experience. Of course, you have dealt with a particular situation in the past, or with people who have done that, and you learn from their mistakes, and they've shared that, so we can all grow together. But when it comes to AI, your past experience as such doesn't count for much because AI is so new. So you really need to be up to date with what is happening in the AI world when you're making decisions about AI. So, you know, you need to have some real experts, or at least get guidance and advice of people that are experts when it comes to decision making. And I think that is the biggest challenge institutions are facing when they want to integrate AI into their curriculum. They just don't have that expertise in house, so they need to outsource it, and that's where often a blocker comes up.
Dr. Poldy, my last two questions. The first is, what lessons can be learned from successful AI-driven educational initiatives?
Oh, let me tell you about two examples there. So recently, earlier this year in 2025, we worked with the University of Technology and Applied Sciences in Oman, UTAS for short, and they upskilled in a highly personalized manner using our AI system to over 200 students in transferable and employability skills training, the course I mentioned earlier. I mentioned in September last year, we crossed 64% completion rate, which was already, phenomenal, 4 times, 5 times higher than, the traditional average for online learning. But their results showed over 95% completion rate, which is just phenomenal. It's not heard of. It's completely new. And that's both for online and digital learning. It's unheard of, not just one of the two. And I believe that is one of the biggest impacts personalized or AI learning, can have. You can speak to the system. You can ask your personalized questions. You can even tell it about your experiences and then link your learning to it. And how can that be integrated? You can clear doubts. You can give it a scenario that you may have encountered or you will encounter soon, and you want to prepare for that. You want to use the AI to get ready for that system. And you can get all of that support in a personalized manner and in real time. No need to wait for anyone. So there are several other projects that are, doing stuff like that. OpenAI is doing a project with universities. I don't think the impact is out yet, so we'll have to wait for that. Hopefully that comes out in due course. Another example is, I think this was also in January, February, there was a study that came out, was done by the World Bank in Nigeria. Here they gave users an AI tutor, and I think the results show that 2 weeks of learning with this AI was almost worth 2 years of learning support. So that was the advantage. So AI could really also speed up the learning that these students had. And I think that's, these are some of the impacts AI can bring. The other example I want to give about lessons learned from successful AI-driven education initiatives is another AI system. So we talked about some other systems. I've talked a lot about OAI, our system, but I also would like to touch briefly upon Teddy AI, which is another product that I co-created with Dave Aditya, my co-founder. And let me tell you shortly what Teddy is. Teddy AI is a study buddy for children between the ages of 4 to 7, so reaching that sort of primary education age. And it's a teddy bear that learns with you, right? It teaches you and also makes learning fun. Because at that age, everything needs to be fun, right? We're not that serious yet when we're 4 or 5 years old. We want to play. So Teddy does that really in a gamified way. However, that's not it. So that's the part for the child when they're learning. The parent or the teacher can also prompt Teddy or request Teddy in, normal language and not in AI language, that to teach the child what they want them to learn. So, Teddy can just bring up these topics whilst they're interacting with the child and teach those things to the children. So the children learn also the fundamental things that parents or teachers want them to learn, whether it's things that are part of your culture, or I don't know, the importance of brushing your teeth at night, or don't forget, grandpa's birthday next week, whatever it may be. Teddy can also bring those elements in the interactions that he has with the child. And then again, the parents and educators get that data back. Because we always need to close the loop with AI, right? There's one part of us using these AI tools, but the almost sort of the bigger benefit or the other side of the coin is what happens to all that data that we're giving that AI. Now, in our cases, it's always very safe. I already mentioned we can either store things on their servers. Teddy runs completely on edge, so the data of the child is safe. It does not need to, leave the device. It doesn't go to something like OpenAI. It's not being trained on, all of that. But the parents get that data back. So they see, oh, my child learned, the colors today. Yeah. Next day, they practiced the multiplication. Oh, they were struggling with this. They learned these new words. And the parents can then also use that in their interactions with the children. So they really are, part of their child's early development. And this is something at the moment parents are not really part of, but they yearn to be part of that. So again, another successful AI in learning, right?
Dr. Pauldy, my last question. Could you please share your research journey in AI in education and what motivated you to explore this topic?
Yes, so I have a PhD in cognitive neuroscience. That's for me was the time I came to London to do my PhD here. And I've always been fascinated and I've always been interested in learning. I've always been, my education journey was always full of providing tutoring support, being like, a lab assistant. Even when I was an undergraduate student, I was already a lab assistant, working with the first years and later on second and third year students when I was a master student. And I've always, education has always been something very close to me. And when I decided to do a PhD, I decided cognitive neuroscience because there's a lot of psychology neuroscience when it comes to learning. And I found neuroscience is very fascinating. But then when I finished, I actually was the president of the student union, a body in the UK where each university has. And my co-founder Dave was the vice president. And we started working together on a variety of projects. And it worked really well. And then we decided we travel after that year was finished together with some other people. And that's where I really wanted to make an impact on serving underserved learners in South Asia. And you might think, where does AI come in all of this? It's coming. And what we found is that there are, we found that a lot of learners, but also educators were really stuck in this employability skills training. It was just not given. It was very much, rote learning. Here is the book. This is what we're going to cover. And then in X amount of weeks, you have an exam and you basically need to regurgitate that book. And you need to score, the highest mark possible. And that's what we saw was a system. And of course, that's not very practical when then the learner goes into a job later on. They don't know how to present themselves. What is a CV? All of these things that we spoke about before. So that's why we created a global employability curriculum, very research driven. So we did interviews, surveys, we hosted sessions, and we got a lot of data. And that's what we used to develop our own employability training program that is now in use with our AI. But it started as a human-led training system. So humans teaching other humans, one-to-one or one-to-many. But then even though we upskilled 10,000s of learners in the scope of 9 months or of over a year, and reached 9 countries. So we did really well. We hit a bottleneck. There were not enough trainers that could help us out, that could join us. Why? Well, there are globally not enough educators. There are not enough people that join the education profession, and we face that same bottleneck. In 2022, there was a shortage of 64 million teachers to just reach, global universal education. That's a lot. So we were part of that, those millions, and we also were facing that. And then we started thinking, now, how could we still, serve what we want to do, serve the underserved, upskill people, both in, already digital skills at the time, but also employability. But how can we do this in a much more efficient way so that we can create a bigger impact and reach more and more people, because many more people need it. And that's where AI came in. So in January 2021, we launched the world's first digital human teacher. So about 18 months before ChatGPT came. So we are, pioneers in the field. And for me, the combination of AI and really using the technology to our, as a benefit to our advantage and linking that to education is I just see that's where, I can really make an impact in the lives of millions and millions of people and really giving them, an equal opportunity to learning and excelling and becoming what it is that they want to become.
Listeners, as we wrap up today's insightful discussion on AI in education and employability, it's clear that artificial intelligence is not just reshaping how we learn, but also redefining the skills needed for the workforce of the future. From personalizing learning pathways to bridging the critical skill gaps, AI holds immense potential in making education more adaptive, inclusive, and career-focused. A special thank you to Dr. Pauldy Otermans for sharing her expertise and valuable perspectives on this transformative topic. Dr. Pauldy, your insights have given us a deeper understanding of the opportunities and challenges that came with integrating AI into education. Thank you so much for sharing your insight with us.
You're very welcome. And if anyone wants to connect, feel free to connect on LinkedIn and reach out. More than happy to have a chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pauldy.
Thank you.